and behind. That was
Good day, sir. Nope. I had once before. I can't remember when, but I think it was a rooster. A friend of mine. I got a guy to drop the list. Yeah. She didn't know kind of what was going on here.
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly.
So I've got a guy all lined up.
Good.
I guess we'll see what happens here.
Yeah.
We only got one more step. He's been at it for a while.
Okay.
He's been drawing for draw back or another. Basically, I have three houses, big parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no.
I did. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Waukesha Plan Commission meeting on November 10th, 2016, beginning at 6:31 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Chairman Merrick,
Present.
Supervisor Fisher,
Here.
Commissioner White,
Here.
Commissioner Flanagan, Commissioner Stigler,
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez, Commissioner Miller.
And Madam Clerk, have we met the opens meeting law?
Yes, we have.
And we could begin with citizens' comments. Seeing none, we can go on to the minutes of October 13th, 2016. Is there a motion? And a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to 6, discussion and possible action on A, certified survey map application. The owner is Andrew Tully. Location is West 238, South 4195 Big Bend Road. Tax key number is WAKT 1386996. This is for a recommendation to the town board. Is Mr. Tully here tonight? Good evening. Planner Rybarczyk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you tonight is Andrew Tully. He wants to subdivide the 42-acre parcel that he owns into 3 lots. Lot 1 would be 1.06 acres. Lot 2 would be 2.26 acres. And the remnant parcel would remain intact, which would be approximately 38.69 acres. Lot 1 and Lot 2 would be sold for future residential development, and they would both have access off to Big Bend Road. The remnant parcel includes a principal residence and accessory buildings. The ownership of the remnant parcel would remain with Mr. Tully. And looking at the certified survey map, as far as the planner comments, both Lot 1 and Lot 2 are currently zoned R1, the single family residential district, and C1 conservancy district. The proposed development is single family residential. They could potentially have an accessory building on them in the future. The lots are large enough. Both the residential, single family residential and accessory buildings would be permitted uses in the R1 district. Lot 1 and Lot 2 comply with the minimum lot size of 1 acre and a minimum lot width of 150 feet for the R1. The illustrated building envelope complies with the 50-foot front yard setback, the 20-foot offset requirements, which is side and rear. And then it also complies with the 30-foot buffer area from the conservancy, which is identified on the certified survey map. The remnant parcel, which is the 39 acres, the petitioner is asking for a waiver from our land division ordinance. We do have a provision in our land division ordinance that says anytime that the remnant parcel is greater than 20 acres, it doesn't necessarily have to be shown on the CSM as long as the Planning Commission and board approve of that. So that is part of the request tonight. As far as engineering comments, I'll turn it over to Engineer Ginelli.
Thanks, Jamie. We have none. My letter dated October 24th. We reviewed the CSM dated October 13th and have no comments and concerns, and as a result would recommend approval based on the other conditions in Jamie's report. Simple.
I did make a note, a town policy concern. I think as some of you will recall, last month, Mr. Tully was before us for an accessory building. At that time, we looked at the total aggregate square footage of the accessory buildings. It was based on the 42 acres. With this land division, that total acreage is reduced to 38. He's still in compliance with the number of accessory buildings and the aggregate square footage. So I did want to bring that to note in case it was a question, in case that question was brought up tonight. So what I did is I put together a staff recommendation. There's two motions to the recommendation. The first is action on the waiver of the remnant parcel. And then the second action is a motion for the certified survey map. And I believe in your mailboxes when you came today, there was a revised staff report. There was some track changes on it. I received a comment from Attorney Macy that I had overlooked the conditions. So condition 1 of the staff report should read that the petitioner shall satisfy all comments, conditions, and concerns of the town chairman, town engineer, town planner, and all reviewing, objecting, and approving bodies with regard to the certified survey map. And then condition 2 is the petitioner shall obtain all required signatures prior to the town signing. And then condition 3 is payment of all charges. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Planner Ray Barczyk or Engineer Janelli?
I raised this question to him previously, so I'm not trying to stump him in any way. I think we need to get into the record the remainderment parcel. I know there's apparently a lot of wetlands on, because it is a sort of an odd. One of the problems you have when you grant a waiver and don't require a 3-lot CSM, you don't know a lot about the remainderment parcel. I don't even know if anybody here in the room knows what the remainderment parcel looks like from the packet. That's not a criticism, that's just a fact. It's a very odd shaped, isn't it? L-shaped sort of remainderment parcel that wraps around and has access off a different road. I don't even know if I fully, I'm trying to pull it up.
All of the access is off of Big Bend. It does butt up against 164, but there's no legitimate access off the 164. A majority of the property south of what's shown on the CSM is all wetlands. It has an intermittent stream going through it, and it's floodplain as well. So in speaking with Mr. Tully, there does not appear to be any immediate desire to do any more subdividing than these 2 lots. However, he is in attendance tonight, so he could speak to that.
Yeah, but the problem is he's not going to own it forever. And planner's job, in part, is to make sure that they don't approve a land division that keeps the remainderment of the parcel from being developed, correct? I mean, you would agree that that's part of the plan commission's job. And I'm concerned that the northerly portion by the pond, there's no access to it. He isn't left a remainderment strip between the, he's subdividing everything between, that he owns between his 2 neighbors' parcels. That's not, I didn't describe that very well, but it's the, thank you, Renee. It goes between the Wolfram parcel and the Smith parcel. He's dividing that. He owns land south of it. And land behind Smith, I believe Wolfram and 2 parcels east.
Yes.
And I don't know how you get, to me it was like some of the land north, behind Smith, Wolfram, and the lots at a pond is developable, but if you chop off the early access, I mean, I assume his house is south.
You're talking about the area between the back of the lots in 164?
Yes.
Come on up to the mic, Mr. Tully.
It's all wetlands. I could have included that in the lots and made them bigger because it's absolutely, it's just all wetlands.
I know he's keeping that. How do you get to that? No, he can't. He's dividing everything. That's not what this says. It goes all the way to Smith and all the way to Wolfram. I pulled it up. That's what I was checking. When I pulled it up, this is one, this is Smith, and this is Wolfram. He's dividing everything on this road, so he can't get back to this land. And this is developable land where the pond is.
It's all
What's
wetlands.
north of the wetland?
Pull up the environmental.
And as I said, the planner and I talked about this briefly, and your job is to make sure you're not, okay, Everybody knows we have situations all over the state of Wisconsin, and probably in this town, where property owners came in and did an acre, an acre, an acre, an acre all along the road to make some money. And all of a sudden, somebody came to develop the rest of the farm and they didn't think it through very well. Everybody's shaking their head. Everybody's seen that happen. Part of your job as planners is to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but he's taking all of his frontage on Big Bend that would give him access to at least behind those parcels. So you have to ask yourself, why aren't these parcels going all the way back, you know, the full length of the property? If you can't get to this anyway, you can't get to it because of the wetland here. And I'm afraid there might be a buildable lot back on that pond.
Can you pull up the environmental on it? Supervisor Fisher?
I guess I've got a really maybe even more elementary question. What is the reason or purpose for excluding the remnant parcel from the certified survey map? What's the reason for that?
I think it was just in speaking to the surveyor, they were only focused on the north, and I think that the surveyor just didn't necessarily want to have to go through and mark out the other 38 acres when the petitioner has no desire to do anything with it at this time.
I mean, is it because it would cost extra money to have them put that on the drawing? Is that, I mean, is it a
Yeah.
pocketbook issue?
Yeah, I think it would probably be pretty costly to do
So it's
all
about
of it.
money.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there's some land back here.
Yeah, but how big is that?
Put a house there.
Well, enlarge it and then go to tasks.
I mean, when you turn the environmental corridors on and you turn the
Analysis,
wetlands
right.
on, there's not a lot of development potential remaining on this property. Oh, but if you turn the environmental corridors on, the environmental corridor goes all the way to the. Well, ours is 30 feet, but this is within Waukesha County shoreline.
If you click on the environmental, what's the distance from the back of the lot to the wetlands?
Well, in some areas, the wetland goes all the way to 164, goes all the way to the right of way.
70 feet is the most. From there to there.
Chris said 70 feet at most.
So it's not a buildable.
No, no.
So that distance is about 70 feet, so you wouldn't have a buildable lot there.
Okay, and then the question is, why aren't the lots going all the way back to the back of the lot line? Why are you keeping them?
Well, that's a good question for Mr. Tully. Any reason that the lots didn't extend all the way to the back of the lot line?
Why they didn't go all the way to 164?
Yes.
Not really. It's just that the guy that drew it, I asked him which way should I go? He said, well, it's not usable. He said, why don't you just sell them that much or make 2 lots there?
Fair enough.
I just hate to start over and have them draw it again, but there's nothing back behind there that's buildable. The people that will build a house there, if I build a spec house there, it's basically their land. They're going to be able to see the 164. There's nothing that can, if you were to look at the property, there's nothing that can ever be put back there.
The question for those who can't see it is, it almost, you know, I mean, you can get there from his remaining parcel.
Right, but what's the point if it's not buildable?
Well, okay, if you owned one of those lots and you buildable and you could see all the way to 164, but you didn't own it, and some kids started playing back there, or put a track back there, or put a picnic pavilion back there in your backyard, somebody said, well, why did you divide it off that way? I mean, I'm just, you know, as I said, I told Mr. Rubarczyk I was going to ask, if they're asking for a waiver, you have the right to know what the remainderment parcel is. Mr. Fisher's already asked why they're not doing a 3-lot CSM. We generally think that's for cost, and that's reasonable. That's, many people ask not to do it, for the cost. Does he have to do a wetland delineation, or has that been done? But for the-
He picked up, Mr. Egan, who originally had this, had done all of the legwork. He has picked it up and he just doesn't want to own the 30 or the 42 acres. And I think that you were looking at possibly even building the spec homes yourself for sale.
Right.
So,
On these two, on one of the lots, I leave the other one blank or I'd leave the other one on for sale for a year or two, but I would probably build a spec house next year.
I have another technical question for staff, if I may. This is to protect you. If the wetland's been done, the wetland delineation has only gone good for a certain period of time. If you don't CSM that, you lose it, right? I thought you had to, or do you only have to do it on a plat of, you have to, if you're not having DNR or Sewer Pack do it, yeah, he had a private company or his predecessor had a private company do it as best I could tell, you have to then do something with that in order to preserve it.
correct, but the wetland delineation was done last year. So I mean, he's not
No, I'm
in
talking
jeopardy.
about down the road. Does he have a better protection with the wetland delineation if he gets it on a CSM? That's my question.
I don't think so. I think the delineation's good for 5 years and
But you have to have it at least platted. If you have a private entity do it, somebody has to go and put the bearings and everything. You can't just have the sketch from the wetland determinator, for lack of better words. I'm sorry. There are private companies who go out and market, and then you have to have a surveyor follow behind that expert in
Correct.
order to get that be the true delineation, right?
right.
Yes,
And did you
but
do that?
so
I'm
did
assuming.
your surveyor marked out the wetlands that was delineated by a delineator, and was your delineator an assured delineator? That's
Yes.
Okay, so it's an assured delineator. So
Yes.
It doesn't need concurrence from the DNR. So if that's, and the surveyor has already marked it.
That is correct.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure he didn't lose, by not including this on the CSM, he wouldn't lose certain of the work that was done by the former owner or somebody apparently on the wetland delineations.
But if he doesn't build within 5 years and he comes back in 7 years, then he has to have it delineated.
Right.
And he starts from scratch. So his-
Correct.
That is correct.
His buildable lot didn't shrink.
Right.
Yes.
So this is the lots. They run this.
Yep.
And my question is that L-shaped lot appropriate? Is it more appropriate from a planning standpoint that the lot line go all the way back? And I know that's more land, but if he doesn't care, I mean, and Jamie, I did warn you that I was going to ask this question, didn't I?
From Chris and our standpoint, we're completely fine with the CSM. So this is more of a legal and policy question.
And if it's not a buildable lot, I don't take issue with it. It's not buildable back there. And I'm not even certain that you have, just not that this matters, I'm not even certain you have to have a surveyor market. Do you actually have to have a surveyor market if a assured delineator delineates the property?
In this case, it was the entire 42 acres has been, all the wetlands have been identified. The intermittent stream has been identified.
If he
The
walks around
ordinary
and puts the
high
little
water
marks
mark.
on the trees, somebody has to go and say that's the bearing of where that little mark is.
Attorney Macy, I don't think you understand it's been done.
No, I was
We're just
answering his
arguing.
question.
Okay.
I was answering, he asked the question, is if you have an authorized delineator do it, do you have to have it surveyed? And I said, yeah, the authorized delineator, all he does is put the little marks on the twigs and the stakes in the ground, and somebody with one of those machines has to come and say what bearing that is, right? Okay, and that's been done. We understand that's been done. So, the point is of this conversation, technically it makes the engineering and the planning requirements. You as planners have to decide whether you want to waive the remainderment being as a third lot on the CSM and whether or not the configuration is appropriate. Fair enough?
Yes. Supervisor Fisher.
I guess I have two things. I'll speak to that in a minute, but a question. I see that it looks like there were 6 soil borings taken. Was that for on-site sewage disposal system, or what was the purpose of that?
Yes, they had soil borings that were done for each of the lots. There should have been, I believe, 3 borings per lot.
Okay, and did you have a chance to look at those? I mean, are there any issues or concerns about what those revealed?
I can tell you that I'm not a builder or a developer, but the fellow that did it said I had one of the two, and I don't know which one it was. I believe I have it with me, as a conventional system, and the other is a mound system. That's all I can tell you. I'm sorry, but I believe I might have it with me.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I'll make a comment. Listening to the discussion here for the last 15 minutes or so, I feel as though Attorney Macy has raised some valid concerns or points. I guess for my purposes, I'd like to be able to see this in a drawing rather than having people looking at online images or that type of thing or what or not. So I'm going to have difficulty supporting this if we really can't see the totality of what it is you're proposing to do.
Jamie, is this, if you go back in time, is this substantially the same as what Mr. Egan had proposed some time ago?
Originally, Mr. Egan only had one lot at the north because his wife and he were downsizing. So they were going to build the house, move on that 1 acre lot, and then sell the 41 or 40 acres. And unfortunately, he passed before that could happen.
Any other questions for Planner Rybarczyk or Mr. Tully? Is there a motion for a waiver of the remnant parcel larger than 20 acres in size? I'll make the motion for a waiver of the remnant parcel larger than 20 acres in size. Is there a second? What was her name? Any further discussion? We've got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion fails. So I don't think there's any reason to go on to the certified survey map if we don't have a passed motion on that. So I guess the suggestion would be then, Mr. Tully, that,
We have to deny the certified survey. map
well,
then because it
oh, you
doesn't
do have to deny it for
we have a
60
timeline.
days. Yeah, 60 days. Is there a motion for this approval of the certified survey map? And keep in mind, the motion, it's a motion for approval, but it either has to be denied or accepted within 60 days.
I will move to deny the motion for the certified survey map.
And a
The
second.
request.
This is a recommendation to the town board to deny for failure to show all of the land. The reason would be that we haven't
Correct.
granted the waiver, and so he has to come back with a few lots.
Correct.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor of denial? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So, Mr. Tully, I think the next step would be to get a certified survey map showing all of the entire parcel and bring that back. On to B, site plan and plan of operation for Town Motors LLC. The owner is Tristan Gross. Location is South 40 West 24040 Rockwood Way. Tax key number is WAKT 138-1999031. This is for a recommendation to the town board. Is Tristan here tonight?
I am.
Good evening.
Hi, how you doing?
Fine. Planner Rybarczyk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you tonight is Tristan, does business as Town Motors LLC. He is looking to operate out of Unit A in Rockwood Way. It's a multi-tenant building. He operates an automotive service and sales business, provides quality automotive service, as well as offers sales of high-quality used automobiles and light trucks. Petitioner has over 15 years of experience in the automotive industry, including the professional certification of Automotive Service Excellence Master Certified Technician. The proposed use is permitted in the I-1 Limited Industrial District. As far as the site plan, the petitioner is not seeking to change or modify the existing building, site, parking, or landscaping at this time. The plan of operation, the proposed use and activities, it's an automotive service and sales. Hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon. Number of employees are just 2. Number of vehicles on display for sale would not exceed 5, and that would be a total of 5, whether they're automobiles and/or light trucks or a combination of the 2. For signage, he wishes to install one wall-supported sign that would be 30 square feet above the existing overhead garage door that faces onto Rockwood, and then a 30-inch window sign on the existing entry doors. Entry door, as proposed, both signs comply with the requirements of the sign section in the code. My recommendation, if the Plan Commission so chooses, would be to recommend to the town board approval of the site plan of operation, subject to the 14 conditions, and they are condition number 1 is that the plan of operation approval is limited to this property and Unit A of the multi-tenant building. The plan number 2 is that the plan of operation is limited to Tristan Gross doing business as Town Motors LLC to allow the operation of an automotive service and sales business. Condition number 3 is to reflect the hours of operation as Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon. The plan of operation will reflect a total of 2 full-time employees. Plan of operation shall limit the display of automobiles and/or light trucks to a maximum of 5. The plan of operation allows for the installation of the 2 signs that have been asked for. Basically, the plan of operation is granted. Condition number 7 is that it's granted only for what has been requested and shown in the site plan, the plans and specifications and documents presented. And then the rest, 8 through 14 are just our standard conditions with a site plan of operation. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is it suite A or B, Jamie?
It is Suite A.
It is suite A. Okay.
I have a
And
question, what do we know about the parking on the site? Are all 3 units used and are all 3 have now site plan and plan of operations? Or do we have a parking issue? I don't want conflicts between the uses.
The building is currently in flux. It has been bought by a new owner. And we've had numerous people coming before us for the other units. I believe they're currently vacant at this
Well,
time.
Rogers Auto Body, who's been there for quite some time, still does Unit C. And then the middle one is not used as a business currently.
We have not had any problems with number of vehicles or customer parking or inadequacy of parking at that space.
what's the total square footage of the building, the whole building?
It's about 200 by 60 with a chopped off corner, so it's got to be a little bit shy of 12,000 square feet, I would think.
Chief Buchholz, is that 12,000 square feet indoor automobile storage? Does that trigger anything like sprinkler systems or anything like that, or any concerns for you?
Building's been set up for that operation already. The middle unit does have already. This is not keeping already.
Would you submit that to the building inspector in the morning? Okay. Thank you.
when that last one comes in, it's gonna be checked to make sure that there's enough, that meets the legal parking requirements, not the practical. I mean, if the two end units use up too much parking spaces, the middle unit can't be rented. That's just the law.
Right. Supervisor Fisher.
Yeah, just a quick question, Mr. Gross, you're, do I read here correctly, you're a town resident
I am a town resident.
and you want to do business in the town of Waukesha?
And that's, hey, I like my people, so I want to help them out, you know. And
That's a good
I really just enjoy the area, enjoy the tax base, you know, the low taxes, obviously, and Mr. Merrick was stopped by a couple times.
I wasn't trying to eke all of that out of you.
Yeah.
You're a town resident.
I'm quick to talk, but no, I really do want to be able to offer service to the neighbors, and there isn't much. I really specialize in Japanese vehicles, and there's not much of that around here. I've been a Toyota and Lexus master technician for quite some time. I've, you know, worked for the dealerships for almost 16 years now.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval to the town board for the request of Tristan Gross doing business as Town Motors LLC for the property on Rockwood Way, and the motion would include incorporation of the 14 staff recommendations that Jamie has put forth in his report. That's so moved.
In a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to C, certified survey map application. The owner is Rosemary Mellock. Location is West 230, South 5980 Mola Drive. Tax key is WAKT 1436005. And this is for a recommendation to the town board. Is Ms. Mellock here tonight?
No, I'm, Kirk Bauer, I'm here for her, on her behalf.
Thank you. Planner Rybarczyk.
Petitioner is wanting to subdivide the 4.1 acre parcel into 3 lots. Each lot would be roughly 1.4 acres in size with 203 feet of road frontage. Lot 1 and Lot 2 would be accessed off of Mola Drive. Lot 3 could be accessed either off of Mola Drive or Fern Drive. It's a corner lot. Lot 2 would include the existing residence of the property owner. Lot 1 and Lot 2 would be sold for future residential development. The planner comments that I have is that each of the new lots being created are zoned R1, the single family residence district. Development of single family residential and accessory buildings is a permitted use within this district. Lot 1, Lot 2, and 3 comply with the minimum lot size of 1 acre minimum with 150 feet of lot width. The existing residence on Lot 2 complies with the 50-foot setback and the 20-foot offset requirements for the R1 district. And the illustrated building envelopes on Lot 1 and Lot 3 comply also with the 50-foot setback and the 20-foot offset requirements for the R1 single-family district. With that, I'll turn it over to Engineer Ginelli.
Thanks, sir. I have a letter hopefully before you dated November 2nd. We have 3 comments from our review. The first 2 are rather technical nature, referencing items from Chapter 236 of the state statute. The third being they did some test pit locations and results to the depth of seasonal high groundwater are somewhat high on one of the lots. And I've requested that they put that lowest floor elevation to meet the town's 2-foot separation distance requirement on the map. And that is all of my comments.
Any questions or comments for Engineer Ginelli or Planner Rybarczyk? Supervisor Fisher.
Yeah, I've just got one question, and it maybe not directly pertinent to this, but it is somewhat. I had an inquiry a while back from a town resident, Fern Drive, presently below Lot 3 there is cul-de-sac. Do we know anything, the question was supposed to be anything about whether that might be extended at some point in time to the east, or what lands lie to the east. And again, that's a little bit tangential from this question, but does anybody know anything about that at all?
During the planner appointment, we did look at that. There are some parcels to the east that if they develop, there could be a possibility of Fern Drive extending further to the east. And then, I don't know, Clerk Nicholas, if you can help me, I think we thought maybe it then could go north, but I don't remember the road that it would.
Arrowhead.
Arrow Ridge.
Or Arrow Ridge, excuse me.
So potentially, if the lands to the east wanted to further subdivide, there could be a potential for at least the extension of Fern Drive further to the east, and then maybe even a full connection to the east and then to the north to, again, Arrow Ridge.
Okay. I appreciate that. My question was really born more of curiosity. I don't see, unless you do in any way, that would really impact this request.
We discussed and we made sure that Lot 3 was large enough that if the cul-de-sac never went through, that we would have a conforming lot. And if the cul-de-sac went through, we would also have a conforming lot. So they have taken that into consideration when designing Lot 3.
Any other questions? Any questions for Mr. Bauer? Is there a motion to approve the CSM? And a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to D, accessory building for William Spellman. Location is South 43, West 22, 371 Beheim Road. Tax key is WAKT 139-2993. This is for a recommendation to the town board. Is Mr. Spellman here tonight? Good evening. Planner Ray Barczyk.
The petitioner wishes to construct a 24-foot by 50-foot accessory building on the subject property, so 1,200 square feet. The height as measured from grade to peak would be 14 feet. The exterior appearance of the accessory building would be compatible with the principal residence once the principal residence is resided. So they're proposing to, the exterior of the accessory structure is going to be the new color palette that they're going to want the principal residence to be. The accessory structure will be used for the storage of personal items. Per our accessory building ordinance, anytime an accessory building is over 600 square feet or exceeds the maximum height requirement, it requires review by the Town of Waukesha Plan Commission and Board. With regard to the planner comments, 1 through 6, I went through the items in our accessory building ordinance as the application has been presented before you. They are in compliance with the requirements of the accessory building. They do have one small garden shed, an 8-foot by 10-foot shed that will be removed.
Excuse me, Jamie. God took care of that already.
Oh,
That's one.
has been removed.
Yeah, it's been getting long in the tooth, shall we say, and I told him that when I was talking.
Okay.
It's gone.
So it's already removed. So this would be the only accessory structure that they will have on the property. So depending on the wishes of the Plan Commission, they did put together a recommendation to the board for approval, subject to 7 conditions. First one, that it not exceed 1,200 square feet in size and the 14 feet in height. 2 is that it's constructed in accordance with the site plans and specifications and documents presented tonight. 3 is that it complies with the accessory building ordinance. 4 is that it complies with the requirements of the residential district. And then 5 is the deed restriction being filed on the property saying that it will not be used for commercial or industrial purposes. And then 6 is obtaining the necessary building permits. And 7 is reimbursement of all costs. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Mr. Spellman, as we're looking at the county GSI, do you own two parcels, the
Yes, I
front
do.
parcel and the right?
I
directly behind?
own a second parcel right behind the first one.
Okay, but that parcel doesn't have any access to it other than through your,
Through my yard,
Primary
correct. It's
residence.
landlocked.
okay,
And I would like to make a correction on the 14-foot, it's actually 14 and a half. So, I mean, it still falls underneath the 15-foot restriction, but it's actually with the pitch of the roof, it comes to 14 and a half feet.
okay. The last time something like this came before the board, we really are tasked with making parcels legal, and that parcel behind you is a non-conforming lot, legal non-conforming because it doesn't have access. And I think the proper thing to do would be combine the parcels. Would that be correct, Attorney Macy?
Well, without knowing more information, we don't know how it came into existence or why it would continue to be a separate parcel.
Well, I had kept it a separate parcel because the wife and I didn't know if we'd want to build a different house for retirement up on the back and then turn the other house over to our daughter. So that's why we never did anything as far as combining the tax keys. Because where the barn is going, or the garage, whatever you want to call it, I'm 40 feet off the lot line. So I'm leaving myself enough room if I do that to right of way through there or divide that off like that to provide a proper driveway.
No, we wouldn't, the town wouldn't be able to grant right away like that because you'd be creating a flag lot or a lot that doesn't have access from the primary entrance.
Well, the other problematic thing is somebody's deemed it to not be buildable, apparently. Because you're only being assessed $7,000. You're assessed $81,000, I think, on the front lot for your land and $7,000 for the rear lot. If you deem that to be a buildable parcel, it should be assessed at $80,000.
I think that's because it's landlocked with no outside access. It would just be,
That's the point.
Yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have it be a buildable lot in one breath, but only pay $7,000 worth of assessed value on the other breath. Is that your point, Mr. Supervisor?
Sure. How long have you owned the
since
property?
88.
And when you bought it? they
That's
were
the way I
two
bought
separate
it.
Lots in 88. Thank you.
The irony is there's a certified survey map apparently on the front parcel. And I don't know why this wouldn't have been picked up at the time of the certified survey map. Obviously, none of us probably were here at that time, unless somebody here has some history they can share with us on this situation.
Just out of curiosity, could you pull up the environmental on that? Make sure it's not, doesn't look like it's anything like that.
No, it's checked. There's nothing there.
Okay.
On the other ones I was looking at, showed the environmental.
So with that, Attorney Macy, what was your,
Well, if he
Commentary.
claims that it's a legal non-conforming lot of record, the assessor has to be notified to assess it at full value. And you can go back over 2 years for omitted property.
Excuse me, sir. I'm not claiming anything. All I'm saying is that's the way I bought it. I don't know real estate, so I don't know whether it's a legal conforming or non-conforming. I don't know.
Well, I understand. I'm just saying it's inconsistent. You properly answered the chairman's question, and we appreciate that you were preserving it. You bought 2 lots, you were preserving.
No, it was sold as one. I mean, when we bought it was sold as one sale, but it's 2 tax keys. There's I don't know. They told us there was a back parcel, and it's Mr. Merrick has been to my house. I don't know if you remember, but you've been there, and it's just an extension of my backyard.
I understand.
But as I was saying, you indicated that one of the reasons you maintained it as a second lot, paid the taxes as a second lot, is because you and your wife, I don't want to paraphrase, were considering the potentiality of building on it and giving the front house to your daughter, if I remember that, your statement correctly.
Yeah, we've toyed with the idea.
But then you should be paying $80,000 of assessed value on it if you claim that it's a lot that's buildable. You can have a house, you can't tell the assessor it's not.
I didn't tell the assessor anything, sir. It's not a legal buildable lot unless it has a driveway access. And I just assumed, not knowing legalities, that I couldn't just grant a driveway to it. So that would make it just vacant land.
So what's the proper course of action? Is the proper course of action to combine lots or?
Well, I'll defer to Kathy. Is that what we did in the other one when he had the landlocked parcel?
The last time we had the landlocked parcel, the only reason it came into play was because the gentleman wanted to put his accessory building on that lot. And then we don't allow them to put a lot without a principal structure on it. I mean, a accessory building without a principal structure. So we we required him to make it one parcel, so then his primary residence and the new accessory building could be on one lot. In this case, this gentleman is looking to put his accessory building on the lot where his primary building is.
So if we're not looking at doing anything with that back lot, does it come into play at this time?
Probably not with his approval, but somebody has to get the assessor to make a determination if it's buildable or not. If it's not buildable, he's got to be so advised that he can never build a house there. If it is buildable, then it's got to be assessed for a buildable parcel.
I'd be happy to follow up with the assessor in the future.
Thank you.
But I don't know that it changes this. You shouldn't ignore these things when they come in, because somebody said, how come somebody didn't bring that back in November 2016 and told me I couldn't build there? You know, that's the only reason I wouldn't know this if I was GIS.
I mean, I think one of the questions, I mean, if you say, well, this has nothing to do with it, and again, I know we got a freehand sketches here, but I mean, and the issue about whether that's buildable or how you get access to it, and all the issues about flag lots and all that type of thing, but I mean, is it, if we go ahead and proceed with this without resolution to that, is this accessory building potentially being built where access might go to that landlocked lot? I mean, if it looks, again, just looking at your drawing, that you've got your on-site sewage disposal system at the other side of it. I mean, if a legal issue about whether it's buildable lot or not, whether or not, if you were to build this accessory building there, then how would access be gotten to it?
Would,
And I think there is some relevance to that.
Supervisor Fisher, I believe you have to have 150 feet on is that correct? He only has 189.1.
The only way I could see him doing it would be a flag ladder by easement, and we don't allow either, so I don't foresee how that back lot could be built on.
Do you know whether there's an easement to the back lot on?
No, there is not, sir.
I'm trying to figure out what their legal non-conforming rights are, James and Chris, just so you can think about what I'm trying to think about. If he came in and demanded a building permit from Martin, would he have a right to it because of some kind of legal non-conforming status? And if there was an easement, that would make it a stronger argument that he does. This doesn't go to your point, Mr. Fisher. I apologize. We're sort of jumping around
Well,
here.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't, because looking at this, I mean, leaving all of that part of it aside, it would seem as though if that were ever a possibility, that, I guess I've been trying to figure out what direction for sure is which on this, but if that ever were even a possibility, wouldn't access, whether it's a flag lot or a shared driveway, or I don't know what the heck it is, but wouldn't it basically go on the site of the house where you're proposing to build the accessory building? I mean, isn't that, whether it's possible, and that's another question, but as a practical matter, isn't that where it would go?
Yes,
If you
but,
have access to your lot?
yes, but the town doesn't allow easements for a shared driveway or a side driveway, and we don't allow flag lots, so it's a
And I'm
moot
not
point.
arguing that issue for a minute, but what Attorney Macy just said is, what if he attempts to prevail and can produce something or whatnot? I'm not
Well, I think the
advocating, I'm not
answer-
advocating
The
for
answer
that.
I would have to your question is, then they'd have to tear the building.
Understood. I just want to make sure we're laying everything out here. I mean, we get up with these things and appreciate, sir, you're coming through. You're not interested in having this discussion. You want permission to build that accessory building. We
Well,
get all
no,
of that.
it's not that. I mean, I'm open to
No,
a
I understand
discussion
that, but-
anytime.
But we want to make
Um,
sure,
I
that-
had no idea, sir, that I would never be able to build on this back lot. That's why I just kept it in the back of my mind.
I appreciate that. So, I mean, this is potentially kind of a watershed moment tonight. And as Attorney Macy said, when you said, well, basically thinking that maybe, we give one house to the daughter and build on the other part of it. I mean, what basically is being said tonight, I think, is that your likelihood of ever being able to do that is pretty much out the window. And I think we
I'm
would be
okay with
doing
that.
a disservice to you and everybody at the town if there wasn't that acknowledgement or understanding as we proceed tonight. I mean, otherwise we're kind of fooling ourselves.
But again, it's his property, and if he chooses to, if that was going to be an access, if it is a legal non-conforming lot, and if it could be built on in the future, that's not our problem. That's his problem.
I fully understand that, but this town has been put in a position so many times that people come in, he sells it to somebody else, they come back, and if we don't have good records, good videotape, good minutes, people have short-sighted memories, and they say, oh, the town told me. I came to that previous town board in 2016, and they told me I could do this. I just want to make sure you understand all the consequences downstream.
Fair enough.
It's no bigger than that.
Better to cover it now than take it later.
Agreed.
For the record, I have no idea if he can build on that back lot or not. We don't have enough information. All I'm saying is that if it needs to be determined, and the clerk's already indicated she will make that determination and work with the assessor to get it fairly assessed. If it's buildable, it's got to be worth more than $7,000. If it's not buildable, it's excess property, and some kind of note should be put on it that it can't be sold, and other than doing adjoining property.
And that's precisely the point. I don't think there's any hard and fast representation being made here that you can or cannot. It's an open question, but just trying to, I guess, fully air all of the possible considerations and consequences. So
And I'm
somebody
okay
says,
with the
"Gee,
determination that I
nobody ever
can't.
told me
I
that."
mean, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I don't plan on leaving it except in a cardboard box. I'm not going to spend the money on the wood.
And it's Mr. Spellman, right? Mr. Spellman, you may be contacted by the assessor and said you have to put a deed restriction on it, or you have to do a CSM if you want to continue to have this low assessment. It's very likely that the assessor will contact you and say, if you want to continue to have it assessed as excess property at $7,000, that's fine, but we've got to get a deed restriction on it, or we got to get a CSM to make sure that the future, everybody knows, and so your estate doesn't try to sell it.
And
some
to your
poor-
concern, sir, if it comes to that, I'll just combine the tax keys into one. I mean, it's not a deal for me
Unfortunately, that
anymore.
doesn't solve the problem, but the assessor will know that, because then you can still sell them, believe it or not. So you can put two parcels on one tax number and sell them. Pine Terrace did, and it made a ton of money. Kathy's. I said that.
Yes. Would you like to word that into a motion? Please do.
I'm sure that.
Actually, I came here with the intention of building a place to hide from the wife. I'm getting ready to retire.
She just walked in.
She asked me, she goes, can you put a bathroom in there so you never have to come back in the house?
Do you have a proposed motion, Mr. Ravarchik, as part of your staff report?
Commissioner Stigler? And a second.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Or have we beat this horse to death? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for a good laugh. I had a good.
And lastly, a motion for adjournment. And a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you. How about a short break?
Do you want to do Mr. Miller now?
We have to get the